right on 2.0 gallons a minute.
2 gallons a minute.
Yep.
And I'm about to open it up here, and 22.21. Yeah.
2.3. 2.23. With a 6.0.
All right. I'm in. This is gonna break the internet.
Yeah, it is.
This is really, this is really, really, really legit. It looks really cool. I'm not pitching you. I would tell you right now, it sucks balls if it did. And this is the first one.
Yeah.
This is probably number 100 and something that I've sat in this room or gone out and sweat my balls out or froze my balls off in the parking lot out there. And yeah, it makes me smile. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to make me smile. I'm a pretty angry, grumpy person. So. All right, everybody. This is big. This is seriously like game change type stuff. So James from Active, you all know who I am. Tommy, head of product development at Obsessed Garage. I love how, you know how angry I was at people when I did when we launched the Active pressure washer. That's like one of our most viewed videos.
Right.
And I'm leveling with people, and I think we're gonna level with you again. Like this level with you. Here's the deal. And I want to talk a little bit about the original machine and kind of some of the changes. And one of the things I think is most beautiful about our relationship is that no one else would have done what you guys did. You know, we launched the machine.
Yep.
We put a few thousand of them out in the world.
Right.
And they were surging, including my own.
Yep.
And what it was spec'd and designed for a 25-foot hose.
Yep.
We put 50 and 100-foot hoses on it.
Yep.
And then there was a modification that needed to be done to the internal circuitry, right? And you guys did it.
That's right.
Other pressure washer companies had told me, well, you're the problem. I'm the problem. Like you can't be using this tip or that gun or that hose. And you guys didn't. You owned up to it. You said, all right, we didn't think about this. We fixed it.
That's right.
And so I think that's like a magical relationship. That's what I'm hoping for in all items, all products, right? We've had that with many products over the years where we modify it, and then we find issues. We find things that have to be fixed. And so what did you guys change over the course of the last, say, year and a half on the base machine? Was it what do we call it, the VE52?
Yep.
So the VE52 is the one we've sold thousands of these. You guys have sold tens of thousands of them. It's the same base for the Simonize and some of the other machines that you guys produce across the world. What has changed on that before we get into this little beauty here?
Yeah. So simply put, we've sold 100,000 of those VE52s before we ever put them in a market with you guys. Mm-hmm. And we never had this surging issue.
Right.
Because the customer base was different. Because that customer base was never modding their pressure washer and adding these hoses. So when it first happened, we didn't know what was going on either.
Right.
But then when it started happening and we identified that this kind of user base was doing that, then you kind of trace it back to what is the impact of using that longer hose on the pump and the auto cutoff valve. So in short, the pump was never designed, or the auto shutoff, which causes the surging, was always calibrated to call it the back pressures of a 25-foot hose.
Right, yep.
So not every time, but when you start using 50-foot, never mind 7,500, the back pressures and the way the pump reacts and the auto cutoff reacts is totally different. Mm-hmm. So we had to go back and recalibrate and actually put what they call a two-stage auto cutoff into the VE52 so that it could be calibrated to the usage of, let's say, 50, 75-foot hoses. So that's in a nutshell part of the change.
Really, what seems like the internet gets so dramatic, right? This thing is junk.
Right.
To a simple fix and modification, and what I pride myself on, and we have Tommy and the whole crew here, is that we find these things and then we throw things out in the wild. Our customer base is the perfect customer base to find these things, and then to work with OE manufacturers like Active to then fix it.
Yeah, and you and I have spoken about this many times, right? Like, people got to understand these units were built for mass retail.
Yeah.
Right? So a very specific price point, a very specific customer, a very specific usage, right? So if anybody is into product development and manufacturing, you have to build to what your target is. You can't, you're not building for every possible use case out there. It's just not possible.
Right.
Especially for what was a $200 machine.
That was my argument. That's why I was getting so cranky with people. Like, look, this is magical for $200.
That's right.
And so I tend to get a little short with the world and saying, use your frickin' head here, people. This thing is great. And shoot, I'm happy we found the issue pretty quickly, and I'm happy that it was fixed, and we're happy we're good to go. So the VE52 machine is still current, still available.
Yes.
So you can get it wherever you want to get it.
Right.
Yes, there are other machines that are based on the VE52 in the world.
Yes.
People think they find some unicorn, right? Because they found another one that you're OEing, right?
Well, I mean, I think we've been pretty transparent.
Right.
That unit, the base of that unit was a unit that we designed and built for Canadian Tire's Simonized program.
Yeah, right.
Now, there are minor differences to it, and again, that user wasn't typically modifying it like you guys
Certainly
or
not,
your
right.
users were, and that's why we never had issues with it up there. But yeah, it's been a valuable experience for all of us.
So fast forward to today.
Yep.
We have this new little guy sitting here. So this is prototype.
95% there in terms of production. We're actually going into production probably in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
So a couple small tweaks here and there left to go, but you're seeing pretty much production.
So this is the 2.0 version. We're going to test it on camera here, and I want this to be a chill video where Tommy's running around and James and I are kind of shooting the breeze here, and we're doing the same tests we did to all the other pressure washers. We've had some input with your team back and forth on what this thing looks like. One of my biggest rubs was that all these pressure washers have a plastic inlet.
Right.
So the new machine has a metal inlet, so that won't be a major failure point like it is on pretty much all the entry-level pressure washers. The other thing is we want as much flow as we can possibly get, right? And we want it to be compact, so we can either carry it or put it on a shelf, or a lot of detailers can take it with them.
Right.
We want it to be reasonable. Everybody wants to be as cheap as possible, right? And so what we didn't do is go and try to make this. Isn't trying to make a Kranzle.
No.
That's not the goal here.
Not yet.
Right. We may do that someday, but at this point, this is a price point driven to some extent, with some of the modifications we were hoping to see to be able to do what we're doing with it, because that price point Canadian Tire customer, they want this too. They just don't know it. Right. So
that's right.
So we're able to then do the modifying and all the things we're doing, and then just take a really nice base machine and make it a little bit better. So tell me what's different about this thing.
Well, I think the key, aside from the obvious design, is the pump has been completely re-engineered, and so the intent of the project first was actually to increase longevity. So that was the core starting point of the unit. So most units out there, including the VE52, any of your Karchers, your Greenworks, your Ryobis, anything out there, they're probably all rated at about 100 hours. That's the reality. So our starting point was, what does it look like to build a unit that can actually go 200 to 250?
Okay.
Because that's one of the things, again, based on feedback not only from guys like yourself, but just these things are going to blow up in a month or 2 months and get a new one. So we thought, what can we do in terms of making it last longer? So from a pump point of view, different materials, seals and washers from Japan and Korea, kind of going into every component of it and looking what we could improve at a reasonable price, right?
The line has to be drawn, right?
That's right.
And so, would you say that this machine is a little less built to a price point specific?
Yes.
Whereas any of the major brands, Ryobi's, Greenworks, those are here's we have $42.75 to build this machine. Give me the best you can give for $42.75.
Yes. So the starting point was different. The starting point was less. To your point, when you work with a retailer or a brand, they're targeting a retail of, let's say, $299. Then they back out what margin the retailer needs to make.
Yep.
Then they back out what transportation, advertising, all that. And they go, okay, we have about $100 to build this product. That's really how a lot of these things start. The starting point for this was a bit different. We had an idea we couldn't exceed a certain amount, otherwise it ceases to be what it is. But with the starting point was, okay, let's try to increase the life as long as possible. Let's try to identify, let's say, components in the motor and the pump that are going to contribute to that. And then a nice byproduct of that is we saw a nice little bump in performance. Not a huge one, again, because that wasn't the design intent of this unit. Because again, you're still working with fixed voltages in North America. We didn't want to go to a bigger induction motor, which would bump up the price and weight by a lot. So we still had some constraints, but we're happy with where we got to.
But a different way. You've taught me a lot about how that game is played, where things are built to a price. Price is the most important part. And and I'm doing stuff like this, where it's just, let's build it and then we'll figure out the price. Or that chair you're sitting on, let's build it, figure out the price. The problem with the pressure washer, if we do that, and we'll be at $3,000,
and I don't think price and retail price, it shouldn't be a dirty word. There's a lot of magic and art to building products that satisfy a wide range of customers at a super valuable price. We talk about it, right? But just recognize that that's not going to appeal to the fringe who are demanding the best, but only want to pay $150. Like, there's no magic in this equation here, right?
So what are we publishing? What do we think this is going to be? I know that prices are changing every second.
Day.
Like, roughly, what do we think this is going to be? We're not holding this. Don't frickin' email me. James is going to be very transparent with us. What do we think this is going to be?
So we're targeting between $300 and $350.
Okay.
Right. And what you're going to get for that is you're going to get a unit that lasts twice as long.
Okay.
Obviously, if you do crazy stuff with it or damage it, let's all be reasonable. But from the way we've tested it and we've documented it and kind of cycled it, you should get twice the life out of it. You should get better performance than the VE52. And those kind of are the key points. And that increased price is not only a result of kind of all the crazy things going on in the world today with supply chain and
transit costs,
all that stuff. But it is the cost of superior materials. There's better materials in the motor as well. So we've really tried to upgrade in the most reasonable fashion every element of the unit. And like you said, we've also stripped away stuff that's not necessary that you see in a lot of other pressure washers that really is not built for long-term use, like those really flimsy hose reels or kind of useless things. So we really tried to keep it focused on kind of the user that we think is gonna buy this product.
So let's. I'm gonna keep asking you questions. Let's start getting this thing going, because we're gonna bore everybody to death. That just show me how much it does. So Tom,
do you want to use the code for that?
let's do stock first. Let's do OE, because we did that with all the other pressure washers, and then we'll kind of work our way through. All right, so tell me a little bit about, Tommy starts setting this up. We're going to set it up with the OE setup. We're going to test it like we've done all the pressure washers. Why are, we want a short gun. You want a short gun, I want a short gun, everyone wants a short gun. Why doesn't anybody just freaking come up with a short gun?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, the governing body to sell at mass retail. So, again, we're talking, our roots are in supplying people like your Lowe's and Home Depots and Canadian Tire. The governing body that certifies this is either CUL or CSA, and they had a standard that you had to have a long gun, so you couldn't shoot. You could minimize the chance that you're going to shoot yourself. That's really what it came down to. Then, of course, people were using short guns. And I think there's a couple people that started selling the unit with short guns. Not at mass retail, but I think you see it on Amazon and whatnot. And so I don't know if the governing bodies are policing it anymore, but that's certainly something we'd like to do in the future.
Yeah, I haven't seen any that do. That must be pretty obscure. You guys are.
I think so. I don't think you see it. You won't see it at mass now.
But it's like amber reflectors on your car. It's ridiculous, but it's one of the things that we have to adhere to, right?
There's a new DeWalt unit that came out. Looks like it with a kind of expandable handle. They've gone to a short gun that you can kind of modify. They've gone to a short gun that starts long, but you can kind of modify it to use it to a short gun. So I think all this is coming for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention too, that's I think pretty important, is the relationship between the inlet and the outlet. Because on the VE52 it was on the front and back.
Right.
And so for those that wanted to mount it on the wall, it's a little more difficult. You have to get a couple more adapters, and it just wasn't like as great a solution. So changing this, I think for those that want to wall mount it, is huge.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's be honest, right? We do look at the Kranzle in the back and go, you know, that's kind of the gold standard for a lot of the detailing guys and enthusiasts. So why wouldn't you take inspiration from that, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, another thing too is this is a 14 millimeter outlet, right, compared to
Yes,
15.
that's
which is
right.
Cool, because you know, we want the standard to be, and we want to use this standard wherever possible. So the fact that you changed it from 15 to 14 is awesome.
Now, also explain this is a different pump than even say the one behind us.
That's right.
This is this has a 5 plunger.
That's right.
Tech. So this is still a radial axial where
Yes.
there's a wobble plate in there.
That's right.
But there are 5 plungers instead of 3.
That's
Explain
right.
why that matters.
So that came about probably about 4 or 5 years ago when we were trying to do work on how to increase performance in general. And you could only, because again, going back to that fixed amount of energy you can get from a wall socket, most people were chasing pressure as a ways to increase performance. And with a kind of a 3 plunger style design and 120 volt system, there was only so much pressure and flow you could get out of that system.
Yep.
So we toyed around with, as other people have done, changing the motor to try to get more efficiency, but again, there's only so much you can do. So then we went to the pump and then kind of explored how we can get, in short, a little bit more surface area, getting more water flow through. So this pump's advantage is exactly that: high pressure, but a greater amount of water. And that's kind of where the patent lies, is in the use of the 5 pistons.
You know, I've been very vocal and very adamant about, you know, intellectual property theft.
Yeah.
You know, we see that with polishers a lot. And so a lot of people would have a natural question like, I feel like what we're doing here, we're innovating. You know, you guys have, you know, patents on this, innovating and improving upon something, you know, a technology that exists. But you're not just taking and trying to say, well, we're just going to make that.
That's right.
You know, we're going to make it for half the amount of money. And that's one of my arguments for the red one that I tested here that looks like a KWS 700. Like, that's just a blatant copy. I just really rail against that. So I feel like with this, you know, our partnership here together, we're really working hard to try to take something and make something new, make something creative.
And I think it's great to follow and understand what makes a Kranzle so good, right? And to be honest about what makes it good, right? And not just try to fool customers and go, we're going to copy the shape and the form factor and pretend the way it works the same. No, I think we want to be really kind of, again, honest about what makes that so great and what elements can we incorporate and what elements can we improve upon and what elements do they just do better that we can't do, right?
Forgot to put this on. We're getting too excited talking about the cool stuff. I forgot to put the pressure gauge on. So are these 14 millimeter fittings or 15?
14.
Okay,
There
so
you
that's
go.
another improvement.
That's right.
The more stupid 15 millimeter fittings, although not as big of a deal now as it used to be because everybody's making 15 millimeter fittings.
Well, the 15 millimeter versus 14, again, is something that comes from retail. Right? So what was existing at retail, and you wanted to make your machine as easy to be compatible with whatever accessories were out at retail. So again, less so about ground up product development and more about what was at retail and how you had to match that.
I had one job.
Get 14 millimeter fittings. So this is, everybody always asks, what is this? This is an MTM gauge, you know, with an MTM quick disconnect on it, which is a, you know, Chinese manufactured gauge as well. And so these are MTM fittings that we're putting on here. These are MTM, I think they're 416L stainless. And this gauge is going to give us our pressure. I'm doing the 40-degree nozzle like I do on all others. And then this, I saw this is a 4.0 nozzle, so is the size, the stock size is 4.0.
That's right.
All right, give me some juice.
Oh, yeah, just turn it on. You should be.
I hit the, so pressure switch is right on the front.
Yep.
So once it pressurizes, it'll turn off so we can pull the trigger just like normal. So we are at 1310 psi is what we're at stock on this particular machine. And then, where's my phone? I need my stopwatch. Can't. We got to keep this test the same, Tommy. My clock might be different than yours. All right. Moment of truth. So we'll run it for a minute. So what is the warranty going to look like on this machine?
That's a good question. We're having that discussion right now because we found a lot of commercial users who are using the VE52,
Right, yeah.
which they're not supposed to do.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out what the best way to administer that is. I know that's a non-answer, but we are trying to figure out what the best way to do that.
Seconds. $60 seconds. All right, let's get our
from behind the camera. Is that 73 dB?
73.
Yeah, just behind the camera.
Yeah, our DB spec is a little difficult because we did all of our specs out in the parking lot.
Right.
And so
if you run another universal motor, this will actually sound a bit better.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the pump runs a bit quieter and is actually more stable. Now, that's like a very subjective thing.
Give me my weight
it
on that puppy.
Yeah.
So are we going to also do the same thing like we did with this, where we throw all the other stuff away and we'll be able to sell just the machine?
We're going to try, yeah, we're going to try, right?
We don't waste it. I don't remember the math, Tommy, do you?
I don't either. I have it on my phone.
Chris is next door.
So it says 19.45 pounds.
Okay. I think the bucket was, or I forget what the bucket weight is.
I think we have that. I'll go ask Chris. I'll be right back.
So serviceability, this is a sealed unit,
It's a sealed unit.
so we don't have to do anything.
Nope.
So we're expecting a couple hundred hours of use.
Yep.
And we're expecting, $300 to $350,
Yep.
somewhere in that range, and we'll, sort of figure out that is a tricky thing, like, because people are using Ryobis,
Yeah.
7 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and then they're sending them back every 3 months,
Yeah.
and which just isn't fair. So
I think for a lot of users, this is going to last them years and years, right? They're not doing it 7 hours a day, but
Right.
there's always going to be the commercial user or the mobile detailer
it's trying to get over on everybody.
Yeah, and I get it. That stuff happens, but then they should be realistic about their expectations too.
My tendency is wanting to dial this thing back and do a 4.5 nozzle and see if I can get more flow with a little less pressure. Does that make you cringe as the manufacturer?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I think the bigger issue has been, I think the smaller sizes tend to do a bit more damage to the unit.
Yeah.
Because they put a lot more pressure on the
Develop more
motor,
heat, the electric
develop more
motor.
heat, and so forth. There will be a natural limit to how much flow you're going to get because from the outset we designed it to have more flow. So we feel it's already been pretty much optimized in terms of that balance between pressure and flow.
Yep.
As opposed to most everybody else who's trying to target a max PSI number on the packaging.
Right.
Which is why you get like the 2300, 2500. And those are internal pressures, which have nothing to do with the actual
real
pressure
world.
that
Right.
comes out of the gun itself. But that then all has to do with how they're calibrating the unit and so forth. So it's all to really try to chase that max pressure rating, which really is.
And that's why this whole thing for me kind of got started. Like I didn't have any interest in marketing or talking about or selling a cheap
Right.
machine. And then but it was by far like 20 to 1, the most questions, the most engagement we got from people was, what fitting do I need? Well, it's the whole reason I hired my first employee and second employee and third employee. There was a real opportunity there for the world because we were the only ones on the planet talking about fittings. And so I tested all the cheap machines, and some of these aren't half bad.
Right.
And that's how we got into this.
Yeah,
so
number right on 2.0 gallons a minute.
2 gallons a minute.
Yep, like exactly. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm about to open it up here and put a. Do you got me 4.5 here?
Yeah, 4.5 in here.
All right, yeah.
I actually don't know what's going to happen right now, so.
You guys haven't tested that yet?
No, I don't think
it's going to explode?
So. Maybe the guys have. I haven't.
Okay, so this is a 4.5. Turn the water back on. Did you get,
Yep.
Yep, doesn't work. Yeah, this is an old MTM fitting, so I need the old gun.
Look out!
Okay, give me repressures, yeah.
That's not good. Alright, we're good.
Okay. So we got a drain here. All right. Ooh, we got room. So that's 1250 with a 4.5. I need a 5.0. Oh, you're smart. Just thinking ahead. I just want to see what happens.
Make sure. Yep.
That still feels pretty good. That's like 1190 with a 5.0 nozzle
Ready to
on
go
it.
run 5.5?
We probably could.
Okay, I'll go get one.
I want to test. So I want to test to see if we gain anything from that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't gain anything, you might as well keep the pressure.
Right.
Around
That's right.
1200. Because like I run the KWS 700, the big, $3,500 Kranzle.
Right.
I run that at 1200 psi. It just feels good to me.
What's the flow?
That one gets. What was it? I think 3.5 gallons a minute.
3.5. What's that running on? That's running on a 240
That's 23 amp. Yeah, 23 amps at 240. Yeah.
So I mean that's part of what we're testing and developing right now too.
Right.
And we actually we actually have a unit right now that's using an induction motor that's generating better numbers than this.
See, one of the things that I found I think once you get that 3.5 gallons a minute, it gets hard for you to manage with a single hand. It stands you up.
Yeah, that's right.
And so although we all dream of, hey, I'd love to have a 6 gallon a minute monster, it becomes, even at low pressure, it becomes hard to use.
That's right.
And I think that KWS is right at the limit. So we're running like a 7.5 nozzle, 7.5 nozzle on it. And like I was teaching the guy at the big garage in Atlanta, I was teaching his son, and he's a young, little skinny kid, and he's like he would have to use 2 hands. And so I think there becomes a point where it gets a bit too much, and we need to dial it back a bit. All right, let's see what we get here. This is fun. 3, 2, 1, go. I've wasted so many minutes of my life doing this. That's moving some water. Tear that out. I'm going to blow up the old Accutech. Yeah, we gained 20.9 pounds. Where'd Tommy go? He went to get me the other nozzle. So yeah, I mean, we're going to gain some output. we still have ample pressure, so we might be able to go bigger. And theoretically,
Yeah.
the machine is working less hard.
Theoretically, yes. I'd probably defer to my engineers to really understand the full impact. But yeah, I mean, I think.
But it's conventional wisdom says
Yes.
when you close the nozzle, when you increase pressure, then you technically put more wear and tear on the pump.
And the amperage spikes.
Yeah.
So you don't have an amp meter here, but that would be the quickest.
I do have one
when
on
you
there.
do.
What do we got?
So you might be able to. Yeah, so it's running low.
Yeah, 11.5 amps.
Right.
Is what we're drawing versus. I don't know if this 4.0 will fit.
13, that's about right.
Yeah, so
Right.
we're drawing 1.5 amps less by
That's right.
opening the nozzle up.
We're out of stock of 5.5, so Ted's gonna make a Mosmatic one, but here's 6.0s if
Okay.
you wanna try. I don't know if that'll be too big.
Let me just see what the pressure is. So, give me. It was 20.88 pounds was the water.
Oh dang, that's.
Yeah, so we did gain some with the 5.0.
Let's see what happened on my phone.
So this is a 6.0. This feels pretty good. So that's 10, like 1075.
20.88 is what you said?
Yeah, 20.88.
2.17 GPM.
It's crazy numbers.
That's good.
That's
way good.
Now we're flirting with the 19 amp
The AR.
AR. Yeah.
And you got to remember, right? These are designed for household circuits, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone can go in and install a commercial amp
Right.
thing.
That's 10.5 amps. So the 6.0 nozzle,
What pressure though?
1,075.
6.0.
Yeah. $10.50. Yeah, $10.50. All right, well, let's see if we gain some more flow. We're justifying our $350 here, James. I think we need to go 375.
All right.
Anybody got 400?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
425.
Let's
Mike,
do
you
it.
got 450, Jeff?
But you're just not going to get this type of performance out of any unit in the market.
This is smashing everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
But this is what happens when you try,
Yeah.
right? Right? We
Yeah.
just try.
That's right.
Let's give it a go, and let's just not accept conventional wisdom.
That's
you know?
right.
And by the way, we have a 50-foot hose on here. No issues. All right. Where's my stopwatch? This is the test I was always hoping to have, you know, in testing these hundreds of machines. Like, one of them's gonna, like, something great is gonna happen, and it never did. It was always the same thing. That was the only thing that kept me going, and pressure washer after pressure after pressure washer, and then I eventually gave up, and Jeff and Tommy did the last batch of
Well,
Sancho's.
I mean, we talked about it. You know, the majority of pressure washers you see out there,
it's all the same pump.
it's all built by the same. They're assembled by different factories.
Yeah.
But it's the same pump design, same component suppliers. I can take you through who they are, where they are, who they buy from, same motors. There's really fundamentally nothing different except the housing,
Plastics, right?
plastics,
The color, right?
tweaks here and there.
Yep. Well, it looks like we're going to have to get a whole bunch of 6.0 stock, right? We won't be able to get them then. So if we start producing these in 3 weeks, when do you get them?
Probably end of July. If there's no further supply chain delays or containers sitting offshore, all that stuff.
22.21.
Whoa.
Yeah.
2.3. 2.33. With a 6.0.
All right. I'm in.
That's great.
How are we
That's the
gonna
perfect pressure.
How are we gonna mount this to the shelf?
That I don't
Do we
know.
even need to?
Yeah, I don't know if we need to. I mean, the size is perfect for the 8-inch deep one they sell normally. So 5.5.
Oh yeah, we don't need that. Let me just see what let me just see what the
Do
pressure
you want me to grab
does.
a 6.5?
Yeah, let me just see what happens.
Okay. I wasn't expecting to go that high.
Yeah, that's like 1110. Yeah, I mean that's probably perfect. That's 1050.
1050 at.
Some people like a little more pressure, so you're going to run somewhere 5, 5.5, or
Right.
6. So I think some people like to have a little more pressure. So if you stay the 5.0, so it is. I think a lot of people would probably like the 5.0 better at 1200 psi. And that's right on the edge of stinging. So I personally prefer less pressure. So I would go the extra 0.1 GPM and go to 6.0 on this. And then it's drawing like 10 amps. 10.5 amps.
6.5.
Okay. And then we need to get a foam cannon with some.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to get an amperage rating. Yeah, so that's like 1,010 with a 6.5. So I think. Yeah, so it's the same with the. This was the 6.5, right?
And I imagine if you open up the orifice and you have less amperage draw, it probably prolongs the life of the motor a little bit.
Theoretically,
That's what we were
but again,
looking
I defer to my engineers to figure out kind of, and it's the same thing with the whole 50-foot hose. Theoretically, there shouldn't be any issue, but then it's like a chain reaction, and then it might impact some other part of the system. So that's something definitely we'll test.
Yeah, I'm in love. If I didn't like it, I would tell you I didn't like it. When you're standing right here, I don't give a crap. That's why you're here, I think.
Right? Yeah.
It's interesting to see it continue to gain, like the theoretical GPM gain is actually coming to life here with our orifice opening.
That's right.
A lot of the pressure washers didn't gain squat, yeah. I bet you that has a lot to do with the 5 plungers.
Pardon me?
The 5 plungers probably has a lot to do with
It has everything to do with it. It has everything to
its
do with
ability to keep up with even taking the pressure away
That's
and
right.
opening the orifice. It still has the ability to continue to like flirt with like the theoretical delta or the theoretical graph. 22.5.
2.37. We have a 7.0. Jeff got a 7.0 if you want to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the. I mean, that's still 1050. Yeah, I mean.
Let's try it.
All right.
Because what does the AR do? 975 psi at 2.2 or something? Or
I think it's
2.3?
2.3, yeah.
And that's off of a 19 amp.
Yep.
Correct. And it draws every bit of that.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
With a foam cannon. Let me just see the foam cannon real quick.
Oh, sure. That's a 7.0.
I just want to see what the.
What is that running at?
So this is a 1.25 millimeter orifice.
That should be fine.
Yeah,
should be
I think
just
that would be the appropriate size
Yep.
for a traditional
That should be
4.0
just
nozzle.
fine.
Wasn't working.
They auto off.
Alright, go for it.
We're going to want to open that up. We're going to want to go to 1.5.
Okay.
And look at that.
That's whipped cream.
It must be a different. Well, that's a 1.25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's equivalent to 3.5 orifice, I believe. 1.25 is.
So we want to open it up. Let's make. Can you make us a 1.5?
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty good.
Because that's a dedicated 20 amp.
Yeah.
So the 1.5 should open it up.
And you want to try the 7.0 while we're waiting?
Yeah, so now we're at like 990.
990.
Yeah. Under 10 amps, 9.7 amps. I mean, that's still moving. That's moving some water. Because when you have the flow, when you have 2.5 gallons a minute, you don't need the pressure.
Yeah, that's what people kind of misunderstand, right? Is that when you're using an electric pressure washer on a normal circuit, right? So we're not talking 19 amp, 20, 15 amp thing. The higher the flow at these pressures will clean anything around the house better and faster. Anything that you need more pressure on, you got to go to gas.
Right.
Like, unless you have a dedicated circuit, right? Anything you need that much pressure if you're really stripping your deck and stuff like that.
Right, you got some like 25-year-old algae or something like that. Yeah,
then you need a gas pressure washer. There's no electric.
Because you need 2,000-3,000 psi.
That's right.
But you still need some flow.
That's right.
But you need a 5 horsepower, gas engine to do that.
Correct.
So now what I'll need to do is use the darn thing and decide what size I like. I mean, it's possible that there's a 1.1 sitting in that foam cannon. We might want to confirm.
I think that's a 1.1. We shouldn't be seeing those numbers.
It might be. Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. With we're drawing 12 amps on a 4.0 nozzle.
Yeah,
we shouldn't see it. We shouldn't see a 7 amp spike.
No.
So that probably is a tiny little orifice on there. $22.97.
Just keeps going up and up. 22.97 you said?
Yeah. So I want to get an exact 1.25 and 1.5 and like fresh out of the box so we know that we're running the appropriate test.
So 22.97 is 2.4 GPM.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably run it that way.
This one I think is 1.25 because it's got a Mosmatic plug on it, so this one should be 1.25.
It's hard because I've used a lot of these for testing, and so they probably have gotten mixed up.
That's a 1.25, I bet.
Yeah.
Because it will be smaller than what comes with the unit stock.
That's right.
So.
Right. We're not getting a foam because this is freezing cold water, and we didn't mix up the right. I'd like to see what the 1.5.
Yeah, let's get the new one.
Yeah, so you definitely wouldn't want to run a 1.1.
No,
Yeah.
you'll blow it.
Yeah.
You'll blow it. For
Yeah,
sure.
so let's dump that out. Let's get an exact 150 milliliter mixture. I think it's worth the test in that foam cannon, because I want to see if I do run because it would be nice to be able to run this under 15 amps for people who have a dirty circuit or a circuit with lots of stuff. And so let's get I want to get an appropriate.
I'll get a new bottle so we don't.
Yeah, you just want an appropriate 150 milliliters with 600 milliliters of water, and then a 1.5 nozzle or 1.5 orifice. And I want to see if it makes foam. I think you'll be fine on most houses at 15, just over 15 amps.
Yeah, we design everything to run under 15.
Yeah.
And that's because, again, from our retail background, we're trying to make sure we minimize returns and issues, and you can't control kind of what circuits people are running these on.
1.5 orifice.
Okay. And then fill it up. Let's fill it up in the sink.
Sure.
I wanted to do, so I have the appropriate 750 milliliters. So I have 600 milliliters water, 150 milliliters soap at tap water temperature with the same water I use here all the time, which is pretty hard. It's probably like 300 parts per million here is what we have. And where did my gun go? And so I wanted to see on a 1.5, is this appropriate? Will this work with a 1.5 size nozzle? Or orifice inside the foam cannon?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to go. Now we run the machine safer. We run, we can run, on a circuit that even has some other stuff on it, and we still get our foam.
Do you want to just switch back with the appropriate soap just to see?
Yeah. So I think the recommendation is going to be if you have a 20 amp or if you have a dedicated 15,
You could probably get away.
you would want to run the 1.25. It even sounds more like the foam cannon sounds like with the 1.25 on it. And so I think we'll just put it in the description and give people the option. The recommendation for maximum safety and guaranteed function, you'll want the 1.5.
Okay.
For maximum foam, and if you have you just try it. I mean, they're $15. If I were anybody, I'd just buy 2 of them.
That's right.
And test it out at your house. If you're finding you're tripping the breaker, because I think the pump would be just fine. But the tripping, because it's not like overamping to like with that 1.1 went to 18 amps.
Yeah.
I think the pump would be fine. It would be the circuit that's key.
Yeah.
So my guess is I'm thinking I'm probably end up going to run a little bit more pressure. So I'm probably going to run a 6.0. And it's probably going to be the recommendation, would be my guess when I clean the wheels. So when I leave this thing set up, I'll wash the GT3. I'll wash the GT4 tomorrow when I'm doing my exit interview of that car. So we'll just leave this set up here and I'll use it and we'll see
how it goes.
what I like. Yeah, in real world use. This is going to break the internet.
Yeah, it is.
This is really, 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 really legit. It looks really cool.
The team did a great job. The team did a great job on it, and I think everyone's pretty happy with where it turned out.
Yeah.
Exciting
all this
stuff.
work, Tommy, all this testing, all these years, I finally found a pressure washer that I had fun with and being shocked, I expected the Kranzle to do what the Kranzle did.
Right.
I expected the AR to do what the AR does. But, this is going to put a real dent in, whether you would, because that does 1.89, 1.85, 1.92, somewhere around 1.9 gallons per minute, and you cannot adjust. Like you have one shot, 4.0 nozzle. Even that is kind of pushing the limits of a circuit, even a 20 amp circuit.
Right.
So you're running. They recommend running a 4.5 on the 1122.
Yep.
So you don't have that option to say, look, I'd like to dial up a little pressure.
Right.
So you can go to 1300 psi with a 4.0 nozzle, and we still got, what do we get, 2 gallons a minute on the dot. So if you wanted to dial up, I love the fact that we can do it safely based on the amperage draw.
Right.
So we can safely be between 10 and 13 amps, and we can run between 4.0 and 7.0. So that gives people a lot of options.
Right. Just pick and choose.
I think I'd probably buy 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and just buy the. We should do that. We're going to build a 5-pack, right? And then you can, depending on what you're doing, you could adjust. And you probably could go down to 3.0. Let's see what the pressure. Let's see what it does to the amp if we run a 3.0.
Or grab a 3.5 too if you can.
Yeah.
Because like if you're cleaning your deck or something like that, I'd like to try.
And I will say, like, this is obviously a test, but a general rule is to not run a nozzle smaller than what comes with the machine.
Yes.
Obviously, we're gonna test
Ideally.
it to see,
Ideally.
Yes.
we'll see.
I mean, that's where we get into trouble with people tripping breakers and
Yeah.
then thinking the machine is broken, or that's when you burn out motors when people are running it for a long time. And that's why I said, for the general audience, 4.0 is a great balance, as I was
Nice
keep
and
saying.
safe. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pressure and flow, for most people, they're going to love it.
Yeah.
They're going to have great results.
Well, I think what we're going to see, I mean, this is a 15 amp machine, right?
Yep.
That's what the pump is rated for, 15 amp, and then there's a plus to the 15. So safe operating range is at 15 amps.
That's right.
And so I don't think we're going to pull more than 13 if we go down to 3.0.
I think you would get to about 15 or so. I know we did extensive testing with the smaller nozzle sizes
To see what happens.
because the average consumer is not chasing flow;
Right.
they're chasing pressure.
Yeah.
Again, that's more of an education issue.
Yeah.
But that's where you actually get into more trouble. So,
We're opening so many nozzles today.
Yeah.
This is 3.
sale on nozzles after this.
Yep.
Still have that thing going. Yeah, so you don't want to do that. You want to
Right.
get 3.5. So do not use a 3.
Equivalent to the kind of foam cannon, though.
That's
So
right.
The 3.0 is the 1.25 mil.
Yeah, but
You're
foam
just-
cannon you're going to do in a burst, that you'd be running too long. We would say no.
Yeah.
Don't do it. If you do it, your warranty's void. So there we go. We're safe. 3.5. That gets me 1,500 on the dot. 1,500 PSI.
Nice.
It's great performance.
That's some of the biggest numbers I've ever seen in PSI, even on the PSI heavy machines. Well, yeah, you might as well while we're here, huh? Oh, we've made a giant mess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detailers that are detailing trucks and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
would much rather have the pressure, because they're, working on stuff that's a little dirtier.
Yeah.
Or if like you're cleaning your UTV or your ATV.
Yeah, you need a bit of power.
Yeah.
Wheel arches even.
Yep. I love this idea of selling like a 6-pack. A 6-pack of 4-packs. There's a lot of water on there.
Spraying it.
It's giving me a little incorrect. 18.4.
1.88. And the 1500 PSI?
Yeah, 1.88, 15, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've never saw any numbers like that on any pressure washer.
Yeah, that's good.
If you were anywhere near 1500 PSI, you were like 1.1, 1.2.
Not even, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're getting higher numbers than we typically see. It could be just a calibration or voltage or water inlet pressure.
Sure.
But I think what we always try to say is relative performance. If you were to pull out any unit out, this is just going to beat those numbers, right? So
Yeah.
even if you have an older circuit or you have lower water pressure in your home, I think you have to pay attention to relative performance, and this is going to outperform anything else, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing. So even if our numbers are maybe off of maybe what you guys thought.
Correct.
This same test was done with all the other manufacturers.
That's right.
So
In
it
this
is
spot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same.
So,
level
so that's
playing
what I
field.
mean about relative performance, right?
Yeah.
So people get hung up on, is it 1.92 and I only got 1.87?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not relevant, but this is what
You
you
could have
get.
started the stopwatch,
Right.
Exactly.
held the trigger a little longer. Right.
But that's what you get, right? But so the important thing for everyone to understand is that it's the relative performance based on your inputs of energy and water
Yep.
and nozzles and so forth that are going to determine whether this is performing the way you want it to, as opposed to whether you're hitting the number right on 2.0 or not, right? We happen to hit it today,
Yeah.
but it's really going to be this pump, this system, the way it's built is designed to have a great balance of flow and pressure, And we're seeing that today. So it's, I mean, it's great results. I'm happy.
So, we're going to pre-order this sucker? Are you going to put it up there? Or do you want to sell a bunch of them to start? Or what are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that depends on inventory.
Yeah,
what's coming in, you know, what you can do that.
We're-
I don't give a crap. I'll take the orders and then they come in when they come in.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we're fully expecting it. I mean, we will get it out in the month of June. I mean, there's a lot of shutdowns in China right now.
Yeah.
So, short of any other kind of big change, we do expect it here in July. So,
fantastic. Yeah.
be
So
exciting.
November, you'll be here.
No.
Yeah.
I like to under-promise.
Yeah.
And then I've been under-promising and under-delivering.
Well, there you
Both.
go. Consistent.
Yeah.
Consistent.
This is a game changer.
It's great. I'm excited for it. So.
Yeah, this is
And I know, like, we don't know for sure what retail is, but even if it is around that $400 range, like, I'm thinking, like, the $400 Sunjos are trash in comparison. It's like,
yeah, garbage.
Yeah, I mean those machines. I don't think were ever. I guess like I was saying before, I think those machines, and not just Sunjo, but a lot of those guys, the starting point of the build is just different, right?
Yeah.
They're not designing anything ground up. They're using existing components. They're trying to fudge with calibration of, let's say, the wobble plate or things like that. So, you know, this is a ground up design specifically for kind of the numbers that we're trying to hit, and not trying to pander to, let's say, a max rating on the box. So one thing I'll talk about, the internal pressure of the pump, if you were to use a normal rating like you would see at, like, let's say, a Home Depot or a Lowe's, we couldn't rate this. I don't think we can even rate this at 2,000 PSI. Because the way people are doing these max ratings is when you release the trigger, there's a spike in the pressure of the pump inside. And they're just tuning the pump so it spikes at 2,500 or 2,700.
Right.
But that spike is only felt in the pump. You're never going to get that performance
that's
at all.
what we were talking to about that, was it pressure washer?
EWMA, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy.
And so I think it's, and then of course, everyone in a retail assortment has to plan for, let's say, I need to sell something at 100, 150, $200, 250.
And it has to have a higher pressure
Because
as you work the way
otherwise
up
there's
the
no
line.
value equation there.
Right.
And so part of the longevity story of this pump is it doesn't generate ridiculous internal pressure.
Right.
Same as the Kranzle, right? So
Yep.
they only rate theirs, I think, to 15, I think 13? Or, I mean, their rating is super low.
That's 1,300 PSI to 2.1
right?
gallons per minute, yeah.
And the reason they do that is because they know there's no need to stress the pump if we're
Right.
not chasing max PSI.
So the
but they
pump's,
can do that.
The pump's holding 900 PSI right now.
There you go.
And you'll get a spike and it's rated 1,800, right? So
Right.
you'll get a spike at 1,800.
But that's it. And even then, you know, and even our inclusion of kind of the 4.0 nozzle, you know, I mean, for the purposes of this, we know, like, we want more flow and so forth, and you're
Yeah,
able to
we're
tune it.
modifying. We're taking our BMW and we're putting a tune on it.
That's right. But for the average customer,
Yeah.
they want to take it out of the box.
Yeah.
You got to offer the best balance, right?
They're never going to encounter what we're talking about
Right.
here. They're never going to encounter me at
Right.
Obsessed Garage. They're not going to they're not going to buy a $200 hose to put
Right.
on a $300 pressure washer. They're not
That's
doing
right.
that.
But at 4.0, I think you're going to get amazing performance.
Yep.
Not just washing your car around the house, just it's the best balance, and that's what we're trying to always kind of push, is this balance between pressure and flow.
I would argue, let's say you just bought this machine.
Yeah.
Right, and you just use it out of the box.
Yeah.
You're just average Joe. And I would argue it wouldn't even be worth your time to go to Amazon to order a 3.5 nozzle to
No.
modify. Just stick with the 4.0,
Right.
leave it alone.
Oh, definitely.
It's not even worth the effort.
And it's
not
gonna
worth the
be-
$15.
And it's going to be, with the 4.0 nozzle, with this performance, it's going to outperform pretty much every other pressure washer you can buy without modifying your circuits and doing all that crazy stuff.
Yep.
So that's what it was designed and intended for.
Yep.
You know what I keep thinking? You said, like, things that are coming, right? You say you're maybe eventually aiming for this thing. Like, what if you take this type of technology and build it for a 20
And spend some money on it, yeah.
Well,
Or
we
spend
got
some money
that's,
on it.
and that's kind of the next. Well, we have a couple units in development right now, so
Yeah.
we've really taken the best of the Kranzle. Like, that's what we call a low-speed induction motor. as opposed to a regular induction motor. And again, they do that because of longevity.
Yep.
Right? So there's pluses and minuses to it, but essentially when you take a low-speed induction, you stress the entire system less because you're only trying to get, let's say, 2.0 and 1300 or 1100 psi.
Right.
So you're designing to a specific performance target, then you can focus on longevity.
Right.
And components. And that's why it runs quieter, it sounds better. You know, you can service it because they don't need to chase, like nobody's competing with them or criticizing that they don't have enough flow or pressure. They've kind of become the standard through your work, a lot of it.
Yeah.
So nobody questions and goes, well, I wish it was 2.4. They just accept what it is.
Right.
Whereas in the retail game, you know, you got to play different numbers and chase. So I think we have in the pipeline units with this technology with different motor sets on it, different amperages that are running some crazy numbers. And then we got to figure out things like longevity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can we make it, you know, reliable? Because you can build one-off stuff that gives you crazy numbers, but
What happens when you put 100,000 of those out in the wild in regular people's hands?
that's right. Or you know, is it even feasible? And the truth is, you know, if we put something out at $1,000 and it had numbers that were 30% better than that, is that even still something viable? Because again, the market gets smaller, you don't have the brand yet. Is it as reliable? Because those components, because we've taken apart that unit a bunch of times, wonderfully built, great components, great materials. Some of it is just not, you just can't replicate it in China. Or you can't replicate it anywhere but, like, let's say Germany and some of the fittings from Switzerland. But this is the truth.
Yeah.
And there's no problem in that. But that's why they're charging what they charge. And that's why the quality is what it is. And I think that's great. But when you try to replicate it or try to understand the product and kind of what makes it great, and again, be really honest about that, then I think you get products like this.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
Coming soon. Maybe by the time you see this, you can order one. If you have the VE52 or you have a Karcher, I think even if you have a Comet, I think you just buy one of these and replace it.
Honestly, yeah.
Obsessed Garage Marketplace on Facebook.
Yeah.
Put it up there and buy one of these puppies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to put this in my, I'm going to be honest, I'm not putting this in my garage.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That's in my garage.
100%.
Actually, I'm putting the KWS in my garage. It's $4,000.
Yep.
But this is what I do, you know, and I get it cheap, right?
Yeah.
So, in fairness, but if I'm Tommy, I'm Jeff, I'm Chris,
Yep.
you know, I'm getting that.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this up there so when you watch the TT4, you know, it'll just be on the shelf for you.
Listen, I think it's exactly right. Listen, if you have the funds or you have the access and you're putting a super permanent, beautiful thing that's a showcase in your garage, why wouldn't you go for the best? I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But not everybody is in that situation,
Exactly.
right? And not everybody cares. And so what we wanted to deliver was something that, you know, could perform as good and just be more accessible to everyone. So it's
Awesome.
gonna be
Well,
fun.
thanks, James. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
This thing is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not pitching you. I would tell you right now, it sucks balls if it did. And this is the first one.
Yeah.
This is probably number 100 and something that I've sat in this room or gone out and sweat my balls out or froze my balls off in the parking lot out there.
Yeah.
And it makes me smile. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to make me smile. I'm a pretty angry, grumpy person. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks,
Thanks,
James,
guys.
for coming down for making this thing, and we'll have a lot more on this coming up soon. See you guys soon.